Yas Aspedia. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the channel. I hope your day and your week are going very well so far. NFL Week 7 is officially here, and I have a ton of great picks to go ahead and share with you guys. But first, as always, people, please make sure to go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit that like button, and drop a comment down below. It helps the channel grow, and it really does mean a ton to us. Also, guys, make sure to go ahead and follow me on my new Instagram page at Tassos Picks. I do a ton of content here on the Guy Boss Sports YouTube channel. I'm doing even more content over there. That's right, even more parlays, even more picks, tons of great stuff coming out over on the Instagram page as well as here on the YouTube channel. And to celebrate the new page, we're doing a giveaway. It's very simple, guys. All you have to do is go ahead and follow me on Instagram and comment LFG on my first post. It's the red picture with my face in it. Pretty hard to miss. Give me a follow and comment LFG on that first post, and on Monday I'll pick two commenters and reward them with free $25 Amazon gift cards. It's easy, it's simple. I'm giving free picks over there as well, so you're getting free money from the free picks and literally free money from the Amazon gift card if you're selected. So let's go ahead and get that page bigger and bigger and bigger. We got some great content coming out over there as well. With a new week comes a new opportunity to go ahead and make some money. We got a really solid slate here in week 7. We're coming off a pretty solid week if you hadn't heard. That's right, guys. We went absolutely nuclear last week. We went 10-3-1 on our overall picks. We also went 3-0 on the teasers, 2-0 on the parlay. Overall, a 15-3-1 week last week. Forgot to put the /1 in the thumbnail. Apologies for that. But it was insane. We hit a parlay plus 1193. We hit all those parlays and teasers were all plus money. All 5 of them hit. We literally couldn't. I mean, we did lose a little bit, but we could barely lose last week. It just felt like we were due. We were kind of off to a slow start to the season. We needed a big week. We had a monster week, and the vibes just couldn't be stronger now going into week 7. On our straight picks, we're now 29-20-3 on the season. 2-6 parlay record, but again, we hit a plus 1193. That should carry us for a little while. And we're now even 6-6 on those teasers, but again, all 6 of those teasers have been plus money. For I think maybe -1. And look, I'm not going to get too carried away celebrating. It's a great week, but you got to be humble in this business. Nah, fuck that. Let's go! Money gun, baby, let's go! When you have a week like that, fellas and ladies and gentlemen, you got to go ahead and sell. We got a helmet full of money here, throwing it everywhere. By the way, sexiest helmet in all of pro football is New England Patriots retro helmet. Best in the business. All right, guys, week 7, another great slate ahead of us. Let's dive into this week's picks. All right, guys, jumping right into the outlier screen here, where first game we're targeting in this week's slate is the London game, 9:30 a.m. kickoff on Sunday. We have the New England Patriots facing off with the London Jaguars. And my first pick in this week's slate, I'm targeting the Jacksonville Jaguars here the team. Jesus Christ, sorry about the tongue twist there, guys. The total over here, 41.5 points in the Patriots-Jaguars matchup. And look, I think this is just a great spot to go ahead and bet the over. Now, if this was the Jacoby Brissett Patriots, I'd probably go ahead and fade this pick. But I saw enough from this Patriots offense last week with Drake May versus a Texans defense that's pretty solid to okay at least. But Drake May and the Patriots offense had their best offensive performance of the season last week, and now they're facing off with a Jaguars defense that is one of the worst, if not the worst, in the NFL. And this goes both ways. On the flip side, the Patriots defense has not been very good this season, and a Jaguars offense that desperately needs a win to save Doug Peterson's job, to save everybody's jobs, really. They need a big performance, and this is a Pats defense, like the Texans showed last week, you can score points on. Looking at the right side of the screen here, now you see the Patriots offense overall this year, just 31st in scoring, but again, Drake May last week, 21 points. I expect in this game, Drake May and that Patriots offense to continue to improve. Matchup against the Jaguars defense is 31st in scoring, gave up almost 30 points per game this season. The 32nd, the worst pass defense in the NFL. They do have a pretty decent run defense, but this pass defense is atrocious. They don't force many turnovers at all. They don't really have much of a pass rush either, which in the case of the Patriots is very important. Patriots have the worst offensive line in the NFL, and look at the numbers. 31st in sacks given up, 31st in QB hits, tied for 24th in QB hurries. This offensive line stinks. Luckily for New England, though, the Jaguars bottom half of the league in all of those categories, so we should not have as much pressure as we faced last week versus the Texans. And again, on the flip side, the Patriots tied for 21st in scoring, giving up almost 24 points per game as a defense, 24th in passing yards. They're 19th in rushing yards allowed, tied for 23rd in yards per play. They don't really have much of a pass rush either, which again, for the Jaguars is pretty important because their offensive line is not great either. This is a really good matchup for both of these teams. Two offenses that desperately need to get going against defenses that have been pretty bad so far. Now, looking at New England's side of things again, because you got to factor in the Jacoby Brissett part of this, the overs had not been cashing too greatly. 2-3 versus this over 41.5 in their first 5 games. They did actually cash twice with Brissett, but for the wrong reason. You see versus the Niners to give up 30 points versus San Francisco. They did have a pretty high scoring game, that overtime matchup versus Seattle, but again, needed overtime to get there. But last week, a 62-point total last week versus the Texans. This Patriots team is going to make mistakes, which means turnovers, and they're also going to score points. Drake May had 3 touchdowns last week. Would not be surprised if he has another big game here versus Jacksonville. The Jaguars have now cashed this over in 4 straight games, a 67% hit rate overall this season. They give up a lot of points, and I mean a lot of points. 35 points last week to Chicago in London, 34 points versus the Colts, 24 points versus the Texans, 47 points versus Buffalo. They've given up 24 points or more in each of their last 4 games. And yeah, you have elite offenses like Buffalo and Houston on there, but you also have teams like the Colts, whose offense is not all that impressive. There's no Jonathan Taylor in that game either. He got hurt in that one. And then the Bears, who have been, rookie quarterback trying to figure things out. Overall, I think these are 2 bad defenses, 2 shaky offenses, but they should be good enough to at least go ahead and score some points. I think the over is a really solid pick here. And piggybacking off that, my second pick, I'm going Jaguars here, -4.5. There's no way the Jaguars play in London and they don't win at least one of these 2 games. They have a massive, massive advantage. It's crazy that the NFL allows this to happen. It gives the Jaguars an incredible advantage in these matchups. This is now their second week in a row playing in London, so they've been used to the conditions. They didn't have to travel. This is basically another home game for the London Jaguars here. They haven't had to travel. They're adjusted to the sleep schedule, the jet lag. They're overall that. New England, on the flip side, is traveling to London. You got a rookie quarterback, first time overseas. I just think overall the Jaguars are the more talented team here. They have a lot more at stake. Doug Peterson, if he doesn't win this game, if they lose, he's done. He's fired. He may not even be allowed back into the country if the Jaguars lose this game. So way more at stake for Jacksonville. I do think they have the better quarterback, the better team as of now. I think Jaguars -4.5 is a pretty solid play. I think New England are going to be better with Drake May. These games are going to be more competitive, but I still think this is not a good football team. So give me the Jaguars here, -4.5. All right, guys, next up, we got Eagles-Giants, 1 p.m. kickoff, the Saquon Barkley Bowl. My pick in this one, I'm going with the under at 43.5 points. And there's pretty good data on this one so far this year for both of these teams. The insights provided by Outlier. The under has hit now in 8 of the Giants' last 10 games at home, dating back to last season. A great part of that has to do with the fact the Giants' offense over the last year, actually last couple of years, I guess you could say, has not been super impressive. And this goes both ways. So far this year, both the Eagles and Giants have been covering the under at a pretty high rate. At this 43.5 point line, the Eagles have cashed the under in 3 out of 5 games this year. They're actually 3 out of 5 unders in general this season. And on the Giants side of things, the under's been cashing at a pretty crazy rate here. This over under 43.5 point line, they've cashed at an 83% hit rate so far this year. 5 out of 6 games, they've cashed that under. And again, same story with the Eagles. They've cashed the under in 5 out of 6 games in general at the overall line. And looking at the matchup here, I don't see why the under shouldn't hit here as well. The Giants offense, we know they have struggled to go ahead and score points here. 29th in scoring, although I will mention Malik Neighbors should be back. Devin Singletary should be back. Should give the Giants a little extra boost here. But even with the little extra boost, I just don't think the Giants offense is good enough to score enough to carry this over. The Eagles defense is not great, but they're not horrible at the same time. Like, they're a meh to leaning on bad defense. Like I said, not a good defense, but not the worst defense in the NFL either. On the flip side, though, this Giants defense, they're calling it the New York Sack Exchange once again. It's looking pretty dangerous. This Giants defense is insane. Top 10 right now in scoring, but their pass rush is ridiculous. They are first in the NFL in sacks per game. They're averaging 4.3 sacks per game as a team. Since week 1, when they gave up 28 points to the Minnesota Vikings, they have not given up more than 21 points in a game. The next highest scoring team, the Commanders, 21 points back in week 2. They're holding teams to 20 or less in 4 straight games with some pretty impressive performances. 15 points they've held the Browns, 15 points to the Cowboys, 20 points to the Seahawks, 7 points to the Bengals. These last 2 are the really impressive ones because the Seahawks offense and the Bengals offense both have a lot of star power, have a lot of talent, and are pretty solid offenses overall. To hold the Bengals to 17 points, we had seen what Cincinnati had done the previous week. 38 points versus the Ravens, 30-plus points versus the Commanders. They have been scoring 34 points versus Carolina. They have been scoring in boatloads, and then I held the 17 points. This pass rush is legit, and the secondary, which I know people kind of underrated a little bit, is actually not that bad. This Eagles offense is an absolute mess. Jordan Mailata out. Dallas Goedert probably out. I know they have some of the receivers back, but they're still not 100% healthy here. And Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni, that connection between quarterback and coach has been a disaster for the past year plus now. I just don't see how the Eagles are going to score enough to carry this over. I think the Giants could maybe have some success and score some points in this game. I don't think the Eagles are, though. I think the Eagles, I know in Ev and H2H this week said the team total was over like 24.5, over 23.5. I don't see that happening. I think the Eagles are lucky to break 20 in this game. I think the Giants are going to have their number. I know the Saquon Barkley revenge game and all that stuff, but the Giants, pretty decent run defense, pass and run defense, but their run defense is pretty solid. 15th in the league right now, 116.3 rushing yards per game. But if any team knows how to handle Saquon Barkley, it'd probably be the Giants, a team that knows him better than pretty much anybody. Also, some sharp action on that play. So give me the under at 43.5 points. And my second pick, now this one was a game time decision. I was going to wait till I started recording and hit the record button to decide to go with this one, but I decided, I've talked myself into it, I'm going with it. Give me the Giants here +4. It's risky, but this Giants team is frisky. Did not mean to rhyme there. I'm not Dr. Seuss. I'm sorry. But I like the Giants a lot in this spot. They're home in this matchup. This defense is legit. We saw they diverse the Bengals last week versus the Seahawks the week before. This team is frisky, and now they're getting Malik Neighbors back and Devin Singletary back. I think this Eagles team is just a mess. I watched that Browns game last week. I know I knew it, and I wish I had taken it. The Browns +8.5. That line was way too high for the Eagles to go ahead and cash. We had the Eagles team total over last week. That was one of the only few misses we had in last week's slate. I just don't like this Eagles team. I think Sirianni needs to be fired. He needs to be canned if they want to have success. I think there's just a huge disconnect right now with this team. I just don't see it. I really don't see it. On paper, the Eagles should absolutely win this game. They should absolutely win and crush the Giants, but they have so much of a mess on this offense. And Jalen Hurts, I don't know what happened. 2 years ago, he was one of the top 5 best quarterbacks in the league, in my opinion. I don't know what happened since then. I don't know if it's a Sirianni thing. I don't know if it's the loss of Shane Steichen, some other issues. I mean, they have a great offensive weapons. They got a great system, but it just hasn't worked. So give me the Giants +4. I thought about sprinkling money line here. I'm going to go ahead and just take the spread +4, which is minus 125 on DraftKings. Pretty solid value. All right, guys, next up, this is one of my favorite picks from this week's slate. We got Lions, Vikings, 1 p.m. kickoff on Sunday. I'm going with the money line here. Lions money line. We're getting that for plus money pretty much everywhere, depending on what sportsbook you use. FanDuel and DraftKings both have it at +100 here. This is going to be a fun one. A fun NFC North battle between two of the best teams, not just in the NFC, but in football right now. And if you know me, if you watched any of my videos so far this year, you know the Lions are my pick to win the Super Bowl this year. Little drastic, yes, but I think the Lions are legit. The loss of Aiden Hutchinson last week definitely does hurt, but this team is so good, I think they can overcome that loss. The Vikings are coming off a bye week, which is a little concerning here, but I just think Detroit has got things going. They scored 47 points last week in a massive beatdown of the Dallas Cowboys. I think this is by far the toughest team the Vikings have played so far this year. These NFC North matchups are usually pretty close. I just think the Vikings are due to lose here. I know people say, oh, nobody's due for anything. But the last couple games, you've seen the chinks in the armor there for the Vikings. They were dominating Green Bay for the majority of that game, and then Green Bay, they snuck all the way in. Only ended up winning by 2 against the Packers there. Game they dominated for the first half. Second half, Green Bay came back firing. And then that game versus the Jets in London. Aaron Rodgers threw 3 interceptions in that game, and they still just escaped with a 6-point win. The Jets had the ball driving in Vikings territory towards the end of that game. They were lucky to go ahead and pull out a win in that one. Look, I think the Vikings are a really good team. I think they're for real. They're definitely a playoff team. I don't think this is fool's gold. This 5-0 start, they've beaten some pretty good teams on the road to 5-0. They're legit, but I think so are the Detroit Lions. Look at the insights provided by Outlier. The Detroit Lions are 6-2, a 75% hit rate in their last 8 games versus top 10 scoring defenses. This offense fears no man. And that includes Brian Flores. I think they're going to have success here. I mean, the metrics, you can go look at the matchups. I mean, the Lions have the number 1 scoring offense in football. That Cowboys win, obviously. They've scored over 40 points in each of their last 2 games. They've really started to get going here. Really solid defense. My concern for the Vikings here is that Lions passing attack, the 4th best passing offense in the NFL. Surprisingly, the Vikings, 30th pass defense in the NFL. They're giving up 263 passing yards per game. Pretty crazy, but that's kind of what the Vikings are all about, right? They're a blitz-heavy team. They're all in every single time. When you blitz as heavy as they do, it opens you up to sometimes some big plays. I just think Jared Goff, the Lions, will go ahead and take advantage of that. They know Flores. They're familiar with this defense. They know what to do here. On the flip side, the Lions' defense, pretty solid as well. The Lions, funnily enough, also, their secondary not very good, 27th in passing, but their run defense, like the Vikings, really solid. If Aiden Hutchinson was playing, I probably think the Lions might even be favored. I think he does switch that game enough if he's playing with that pass rush, because I think the Lions pass rush now, without Aiden Hutchinson, you're not really sure what you're going to see here. But even without Hutchinson, I think this Lions defense is solid. I think this team is solid. They're the best team in the NFC, in my opinion. Only the last time these two teams played in Minnesota last year, the Lions did win on Christmas Eve, 30-24 against the Vikings. That was a very different Vikings team than what we're facing now. The Lions won both matchups last year versus the Minnesota Vikings, so I like the matchup here for Detroit. You're giving me plus money for this Lions team. This Lions team should never be an underdog in, I think, any game this year. You give me plus money, I have to go ahead and take it. Give me the Lions here on the money line for plus money. Next up, guys, this might be my favorite pick of the entire slate. We got Texans, Packers, 1 p.m. kickoff on Sunday. A pretty solid 1 p.m. slate. A lot of good games here in the 1 o'clock window. I'm going Packers here, -2.5 in this matchup. The Houston Texans this year are my Baltimore Ravens last year. If you watched my videos last year, you know I was not high on the Ravens, even though, which was crazy because they were a really good team, obviously. I kept saying all year long, the Ravens, there's something about this team. They win ugly. They win these weird games. Deep down, they have issues, and it takes the right kind of team to expose those issues. I didn't think the Ravens were a real contender. And again, kind of true, kind of not. They made it to the AFC Championship game, so kind of stupid for me not to say they were a contender. But I knew all season long that team had issues, and obviously it took the Chiefs to go ahead and expose those in the AFC Championship game. But I had seen the cracks in the foundation, and with the Houston Texans, I feel the very same way. Again, the Texans are 5-1. There's no reason to not like the Texans here. But there's something about Houston where it's like, yeah, they're good, but like, I don't know. I'm just not sold on them. But the Packers, on the other hand, I have a lot of stock invested. Literally and figuratively, I'm actually an owner of the Green Bay Packers, so I don't know if I'm even legally allowed to bet on this game. But fuck it. We're going Packers here, -2.5. The insights provided by Outlier. The Green Bay Packers are 6-2, 75% hit rate against the spread in their last 8 games at home. So at Lambeau Field, this team's on another level. And besides that loss to the Vikings, they've covered this -2.5 spread in every other game this season. Now, weaker schedule? Absolutely. You see Cardinals, Rams, Titans, Colts. I apologize, not every other game this year. They also lost the Eagles back in week 1, but they've been covering this line at a pretty solid rate all season long. And again, Houston, they've covered the 5-1 covering this line. They're 5-1 overall, 5-1 on this +2.5 line this season. Yet, I like the Packers a lot in this matchup. Look at the Texans defense, tied for 15th in scoring. Pretty decent pass defense. They're 14th against the run, which is a big problem in this one. Packers have the second best rushing attack in the NFL and a top 10 passing attack as well. Green Bay's for real, and I think they're a real big threat to the Lions in the NFC. This team is loaded on both sides of the ball. On the flip side, the Packers defense tied for 9th right now in the NFL, 20.2 points per game. They're not a really good pass defense, but top 10 against the rush. They force a lot of turnovers, 2.8 turnovers forced per game this season. An okay pass rush. 4th in QB hurries, though. That's pretty impressive. And the Texans are giving the second most QB hurries in the NFL. I think Green Bay should be able to run the football down the throats of the Texans here. Texans obviously coming off that big win against New England last week, 41-21. And it's weird to say in a game where they won by 20 and they scored 41 points, but the Texans played pretty sloppy in that game. Again, Houston won by 20 points and scored 41 points. To say they had a sloppy game versus New England is crazy to think, but the Patriots, they played them pretty tough, honestly. Drake May had 3 touchdown passes and over 240 yards passing on this Texans defense. The thing I'm hanging on here is that Vikings loss earlier in the year. I saw that performance and I was like, man, that was weird. That was a little weird. And I think the Green Bay Packers are on pretty much the same level as the Vikings. I think Green Bay should be able to go ahead and make some moves here against the Texans. We talked about Green Bay having kind of a weak schedule so far, but so haven't the Texans. I mean, they've beaten the Colts. They beat the Bears. They beat the Jaguars. They beat the Patriots. The only win so far this year that you can go ahead and say that was an impressive win was the Buffalo win, and that was a really tight game. The other good team they faced was the Vikings, and they lost 34-7 in that matchup. Like I said, Packers not that battle tested either, but in the tough games they've had, a tight game with the Eagles, a very tight game with the Vikings. I was impressed with what I saw. That Vikings game also was Jordan Love's first game back from injury. I just love Green Bay at home in Lambeau Field. The Texans having to travel, I think they're due for a loss here. I think the Packers are going to overwhelm them. They have so much going right now. That receiving core is fantastic with Watson, Dubes, Reed, Wicks. I mean, they have an incredible receiving core. And Josh Jacobs has been fantastic in this offense. A great offensive line, great quarterback. Defense is solid. I love the Packers here in this spot. This is my favorite play of the week. My lock of the week is Green Bay -2.5. Real quick, guys, before we carry on with the rest of this week's picks, a quick word from our partners over at FanDuel. That's right, guys. Guy Boston Sports and FanDuel Sportsbook have partnered up here to bring you this very special offer. This is for new customers. If you use the link down below in the description, you bet $5 using the link down below, you get $300 instantly in bonus bets. If you win, I should say, if you win. So, for example, if you go ahead and use that link down below and bet $5 on Packers -2.5 and they go ahead and cover, you get $300 in bonus bets awarded to you. It's that easy, guys. If you lose, it's $5. It is what it is. But if you win the profit from the bet and $300 in bonus, but you can go ahead and throw on even more picks. It's a great offer. It's potentially free money and a lot of free money at that. So go ahead and build your bankroll up, guys. It's a really special offer. You don't want to go ahead and miss this. So one more time, guys, use the link down below in the description as a new customer. Bet $5, and if you win your bet, you get $300 in bonus bets guaranteed. Very special thank you to FanDuel for partnering with us for today's video. Now let's get back to the picks. All right, guys, next up we got Seahawks, Falcons, 1 p.m. kickoff on Sunday. Like I said, this 1 o'clock slate looking really solid. I'm going with the Seahawks here plus 3.5 as the underdog in this game. You got two teams trending in the wrong direction. You have a Seattle team that's now lost 3 straight, a Falcons team that's winning more games and looking better and better each week. So naturally, I'm going to go ahead and fade the Falcons here. Look, realistically, I think with the matchup here, I think it's a pretty solid bounce back spot for Seattle. The Seahawks aren't coming off a bye necessarily, but it's basically a bye week. It's an extended rest week. They haven't played since October 10th. They obviously played that Thursday night game where they lost to the 49ers. They had a nice long break coming into this Falcons game. Some time to rest up, some time to heal up. They had a lot of injuries on defense. A lot of those guys, including Tariq Woolen, should be back in this matchup. And really what I'm banking on here is the Seahawks offense just overwhelming Atlanta's defense. Look, Atlanta's been great. They've really just started to find a nice rhythm here, but this defense, not so much. The names are there. The names are there. We know all the players they have. They have Jesse Bates and Matthew Judon and all these guys. Grady Jarrett. We know they have a lot of big-time players on the defense, but the numbers show the defense hasn't been that dominant. The Falcons right now are tied for 15th in scoring defense. They're giving up nearly 23 points per game, giving up a ton of first downs, and they're 31st on third down conversions. This pass rush is non-existent. They have 32nd in the NFL in sacks, just 0.8 sacks per game, tied for 27th in QB hits, tied for 30th in QB hurries. The biggest detriment to this Seahawks offense is their offensive line, and they're going up against the weakest pass rush in the NFL right now. That fares very well for Seattle in this matchup. This is the number 1 passing team in the NFL so far this year. 276.7 passing yards per game for the Seahawks offense. Geno Smith has been slinging that thing. And yeah, the Falcons' pass defense is top 10 right now in the NFL, which is pretty solid, but their run defense, pretty bad. The Seahawks running numbers have not been great, but Kenneth Walker's also been hurt at times this year. I think now in this matchup, Kenneth Walker will get going and have a pretty big game on the ground versus the Falcons. On the flip side, Seattle's defense has not looked good, but again, they've had some really big injuries to their defense. Those first 3 weeks, I know there's a lot of matchup-based stuff there, but those first 3 weeks, the defense was pretty solid, and then they had some injuries. They played some tougher opponents, and you saw Seahawks defense start to crumble. But I expect Coach McDonald to get this defense back on track here versus Atlanta. It'll be a tight game. I'm not saying Seattle will necessarily win the game, but I think the cover plus 3.5 is a really real possibility. And just to help us out here, look at the number, this Falcons minus 3.5 point spread. They haven't covered it a ton this year. They have covered it in each of the last 2 weeks versus the Panthers and versus the Buccaneers. But prior to that, they were 0-4 on this minus 3.5 point line all season long going into those last 2 weeks. I just love this bet, that 3.5 point spot. I think Seattle could keep this within a field goal. I think it's very realistic. I think Seattle could go ahead and win the game outright. It's not a bad spot to go ahead and bet the Seahawks. Maybe sprinkle a little something on the money line. But I think plus 3.5, really solid spot. I think Seattle's due for a bounce back here. They had some extra time to go ahead and heal up, rest up, prepare for this game. Atlanta's trending in the right direction, but they definitely still have some cracks in the foundation that still need to be fixed. I think Seattle can take advantage of that here. Give me the Seahawks plus 3.5. All right, guys, next up, we got Titans-Bills, 1 p.m. kickoff on Sunday. This was originally a stay-away game for me, but then when I saw the line moving, I went ahead and had to take it. We're going Titans here, plus 10-point underdogs. Look, the Bills are going to win this game. They should actually blow them out. On paper, minus 10 seems like not a bad option. But 10 points this season just seems like too many points. The data has shown so far this year that favorites of like 6.5 or 7 or higher have not fared well at all this year. And although Buffalo does have a couple of blowout wins on their resume, you see they killed the Jaguars 47-10. They killed the Dolphins 31-10. They're still just 2-4 covering this 10-point spread this season. Again, they have not covered any line. Minus 6.5 there versus the Cardinals. Did not cover the spread that week. I just think 10 points is too much here. Look at the Titans. Only once so far this year they've lost by 10 or more versus the Packers back in week 3. But they've covered plus 10 in pretty much literally every other game this season they played in. And I think from a matchup standpoint, I could see where the Titans could keep this game relatively close. I think the Packers, again, the Bills are going to win this game. But to win by more than 10 points, again, 10 is a push. They need to win by 11 in order to cash this bet. Is it possible? Absolutely. But this Titans defense is legit. 13th right now in the NFL in scoring defense, giving just 22 points per game this season. The number 1 pass defense in the NFL, just 137 passing yards a game allowed to opposing quarterbacks. And they're top 10 against the run as well. So really solid numbers there for this Titans defense that could give the Bills some problems. They're also first in yards per play, only 4.2 yards per play this season. Super efficient in the red zone. You name it, they've got it. The one thing they are lacking is a little bit of a pass rush here. See, they're not really rushing the quarterback. But aside from that, they're really solid. On the flip side here, this Bills run defense, we talked about it all year long. It's bottom 10 in the NFL right now. I don't love their run defense. 140 rushing yards per game allowed. And the Titans are a pretty solid run team. 15th in the NFL in rushing yards per game, 118.2. They faced some pretty good run defenses too, which is why the numbers maybe are down a little bit. But that two-head running back there of Tony Pollard and Tajay Spears should be able to have success on the ground here versus a pretty weak Bills run defense. Yeah, I know Will Levis sucks and all that stuff, but I think that the Titans run game could carry them here in this matchup. Like I said, not putting Titans money line, not saying the Bills won't win the game, but plus 10 is a lot of points to go ahead and cover for Buffalo here. I got to go ahead and take that underdog here. So give me the Titans here at plus 10. All right, next up, guys, this is an easy one. We got Bengals, Browns, 1 p.m. kickoff on Sunday. I'm going Bengals here, minus 5.5 on the spread. Look, I can't with the Browns. I mean, they did actually cover the spread last week, plus 8.5 versus Philadelphia, which, again, I wanted to take. I pussied out of it. Should have taken it. But realistically, that was more about the Eagles than it was Cleveland. I can't put money on this Browns team, realistically. I think the Bengals, every game from this point on now is super important. They're 2-4. This is a must-win game. Every game is basically a must-win game at this point for the Bengals, but especially matchups like these. You play the Giants last week, now the Browns this week. The Bengals absolutely cannot afford to lose this if they have any chance of making the playoffs. And this is still a really good Bengals team. I think they go ahead and roll here. I think they crush the Browns in this matchup. Bengals minus 5.5 is as close to a second lock as I can give. Look, there are teams that are definitely less talented than the Browns, but the Browns are the worst team in the NFL right now. It's the worst situation in the NFL, hands down. At least like with the Patriots, you have hope. You got Drake May. Even like these lower teams like, so these bottom feeders. Even Carolina has hope. They have that draft pick. Carolina not too hopeful. They're probably the second worst situation, if not the worst. Up there, 1B maybe with the Browns. My point being, Cleveland's just a disaster. I just don't know how this team's going to rally now that they seem like they're kind of giving up. Amari Cooper just traded to the Buffalo Bills this week. Not good for the Browns offense. It was already anemic to begin with. Now you take away their number one wide receiver. I just don't know what to do here with the Browns. They're not a good team. It's not a good team. Their defense is still okay, but even their defense has taken a massive step back this year. And like we said, offensively, this is the 30th scoring offense in the NFL, and they're already one of the worst passing teams. Now you take Amari Cooper out of the equation. They're not going to get better by removing Amari Cooper. They're only going to go down from here. And the Bengals, now these numbers are a little deceiving here. They've had a lot of injuries on the defensive line, but you saw last week on Sunday Night Football versus the Giants, this defensive line came alive. They put a lot of pressure on the Giants here. This Browns offensive line is the worst. The Patriots are 1B. The Browns are 1A. This Browns offensive line is egregious. 5.2 sacks per game allowed. That's not going to change here. I expect the Bengals to absolutely crush Deshaun Watson in this game. Realistically, guys, the only way I see the Browns covering here is A, if the Bengals just shit their own pants, or B, the Browns finally admit that Watson can't play and they throw Jameis Winston in there. It's the only way I see this happening, but they're stubborn. They're going to stick with Watson here. Give me the Bengals minus 5.5. All right, guys, next up we got Dolphins, Colts. Again, still in that 1 o'clock window on Sunday. I'm taking a chance here. We're going Miami plus 3.5. Look, last week, guys, the favorites covered at an alarmingly high rate, so the public won big time. You gotta figure that going into this week, you're gonna see some more dogs cover. And Miami's one of these dogs that I like a lock here. Dolphins plus 3.5 in this matchup with the Colts. They've actually been pretty decent this year, 3-3 overall, and that's coming despite a big amount of injuries to their offense this season. Now, no one needs to talk about injuries to Miami. They've obviously lost two. They have a slew of injuries on their side. Plain and simple, the reason why I like the Dolphins in this matchup is the fact that they're coming off a bye week. You're giving Mike McDaniel extra time. The last time the Dolphins went ahead and played was on October 6th versus the New England Patriots. It's been almost 2 weeks since they played. They had a lot of rest, a lot of time to go ahead and figure some things out here until Tua gets back with Tyler Huntley as their starting quarterback. On the Colts side of things, I just don't think they're in a good spot here. No Jonathan Taylor once again. And if Joe Flacco was starting, I'd feel a lot more comfortable for the Colts. But you're putting Anthony Richardson back in the game here. And look, again, he's a great prospect. The ceiling is through the roof. There is no roof. The sky's the limit for this guy. The athletic tools are there. The problem with Anthony Richardson is he reminds me a lot of rookie season Josh Allen, but even worse. The guy can go from making one of the craziest throws you've ever seen in your life to one of the stupidest throws you've ever seen. Now, this is a Dolphins secondary that you just can't really do that against. Dolphins have the third best pass defense in the NFL right now, giving up less than 160 passing yards per game. Their weakness is on the ground, and even on the ground, they're not terrible. And the Colts, with no Jonathan Taylor, they don't really have the running game to take advantage. You're going to have to go ahead and rely on Anthony Richardson's legs and or his passing. Coming off injury, I just don't love that. This is a game where Anthony Richardson could definitely throw multiple interceptions. A really bad spot here. Again, if it was Flacco, I'd feel a lot more comfortable. But with AR-15, I don't know. And like I said, Dolphins offense, we know without Tua has been a disaster this year. But the Colts defense is pretty bad. 31st against the run, 26th against the pass. I think Tyler Huntley could have a big day here. I think they should lean into the ground game, use Huntley off of play action. I think Tyreek Hill is due to finally get going in this matchup here. Give me the Dolphins plus 3.5. Maybe sprinkle a little money line. I don't know. but definitely plus 3.5. All right, guys, few picks left before we dive into the parlay and teaser section of the video. I know the video's running a little long, but real quick, I want to shout out Outlier, the best sports betting tool on the market. All the data, everything you've seen so far in this video is brought to you by Outlier. We have a special link down below in the description. It gives you a 7-day free trial to go ahead and check it out for yourself. Guys, I'm only giving you the tip of the iceberg here when it comes to Outlier. There's so much more data, so much more insight than what I'm showing you. You can go ahead and check it out for yourself, guys. Like I said, link down below in the description, 7-day free trial. Thank you to Outlier for being a proud sponsor of Guy Boston Sports. All right, guys, our next pick in the Super Bowl rematch between the Chiefs and the Niners in the Bay Area. I'm going the Niners here, minus 1.5. Look, the shoe's got to drop eventually for the Chiefs. This offense is a disaster right now between all the injuries. Disaster in the sense that they've lost a lot of players. They've actually still been able to score even without all the players. The Chiefs are also obviously coming off a bye week, so a lot of people, I think the public's going to be heavy on Kansas City in this one. And that's why I'm rocking with the Niners here. And just to go ahead and confirm my thoughts, 78% of all public bets are on the Chiefs right now. 80% of the money is on Kansas City. That's just the spread. On money line too, 60% of the bets are on the Chiefs, 80% of the money. A lot of people are hammering Kansas City in this matchup. And look, I get it. The Niners have their own slew of injuries to go ahead and deal with. No Christian McCaffrey and whatnot. But I think the Niners are still in a better place right now than the Chiefs are. This is a really solid Chiefs defense, top 10 against the run, 17 against the pass. Not as good versus the pass they are against the run, but overall a really solid Niners defense, top half of the league for sure. And I know the Chiefs have had extra time to prep for this game, but they have so much missing on offense, I just can't buy into it. No Pacheco, no Rashee Rice, no Hollywood Brown. You're relying on Travis Kelce, who obviously is still Travis Kelce, but then Juju Smith-Schuster and rookie Xavier Worthy are your top two options at wide receiver. I just don't love the Chiefs offense right now. I know it's Mahomes, never bet against Mahomes, blah, blah, blah. But I think there's some extra motivation here for the Niners. There has to be. Coming off a Super Bowl loss, they're at home now. They get the Chiefs in their home field. I'm banking on Kyle Shanahan and the Niners going ahead and using that frustration, taking all of the pain and sorrow and suffering from that Super Bowl loss and taking it out on a banged-up Chiefs team here. It's going to be close. It's going to be a tight battle, but I like the Niners to go ahead and win this one outright. Minus 1.5, really solid line there. Although the Niners are coming off a bye of their own, they're technically on a long rest as well. They only played 3 days quicker than the Chiefs did. Chiefs last played on October 7th. The Niners last played on October 10th. Again, they played Thursday night versus the Seahawks, so they had a little bit of extended rest. So you have both teams coming off of some extended rest. You also have Ricky Pearsall, the rookie wide receiver, making his debut versus the Chiefs. We'll see if that factors into anything here. Call me crazy, but I like the Niners here. 2 picks left, guys, both coming from the Monday Night Football slates. We got Ravens, Bucs, 8:15 p.m. kickoff on Monday. I'm going Tampa here, plus 3.5 in the matchup versus the Ravens. At home in Tampa Bay, this Bucs team, they are the team that could give the Ravens some threat here. Again, not even saying the Bucs are going to win this game outright, but I like the spread at plus 3.5, specifically plus 3.5. The Ravens have now won 4. After starting 0-2, they've won 4 straight games with some impressive victories, crushing the Bills, beating the Bengals, beating the Commanders, beating the Cowboys. Some impressive wins, but the key thing to note here is that this minus 3.5 point spread has not been a very big hitter for the Ravens. They are just 2-4 against the spread this year at this minus 3.5 point line. And really, besides the Buffalo win, they haven't blown anybody out. Even the Commanders, they beat them by 7, but they haven't really destroyed any teams. A lot of close battles. I think the team that most closely compares to Tampa is that Bengals team. You saw that game was a 41-38 close win for the Ravens there. The Bucs remind me a lot of Cincinnati in the fact that this offense is ridiculously good and their defense, not so much. Overall, the Buccaneers tied for 19th in scoring defense. They are 29th against the pass. They are tied for 12th against the run. A little bit of a better run defense than they are a pass defense. They do have a pretty good pass rush, I won't even lie to you. And on the flip side, looking at Baltimore, 23rd scoring defense. They are 31st against the pass. The Buccaneers 11th against the pass. The Buccaneers also 8th against the run. The Ravens do have a pretty good run defense. But again, you have 2 offenses that are 2 of the best, literally tied for second best scoring offense in the NFL, 29.7 points per game. And the Bills, 4th, 29.5 points per game. 2 of the highest scoring offenses in the NFL, and both have severe weaknesses on the defensive side of the football, specifically in the secondary. So taking that all into account, I don't think it's crazy to go and expect the Buccaneers to at least hang tight and keep this within a field goal here. Let's say Baltimore even builds a little bit of a lead here. We know their second half were sorrows, right? Baltimore's had a hard time holding on to these leads, and Tampa Bay's a team that will just keep throwing and throwing and throwing. Baker Mayfield last week had 3 interceptions, did not matter. He still finished with 4 touchdowns and a ton of yards passing. I think we're in for a shootout here. I also think the Ravens are due to finally get, not lose, but again, keep one of these close games here. That 3.5 point line is very important. Give me the Bucs here, plus 3.5. And our final straight pick from this week's slate, guys, we have Chargers, Cardinals on Monday night, 9 p.m. kickoff. Give me the Chargers here, minus 1.5. I believe in Jim Harbaugh. I wasn't a believer at first. I'll be honest, I said I don't know about this Chargers team, but this defense is so damn good. And Jim Harbaugh has found a way with an offense that doesn't have a lot working for them to figure it out, just give them good enough to at least win these games. It's all about the matchup here. They're playing a Cardinals team that, the Cardinals, it's really hard to get a read on this team. They go from beating the 49ers in San Francisco, and you're like, wow, this Cardinals team, and then they go ahead and they lose. They get blown out against the Packers. Play the Bills tight, blow out the Rams. Play the Lions tight, blown out by the Commanders. Beat the Niners, blown out by the Packers. This Cardinals team is so hard to get a read on here. I just think the Chargers are going to go ahead and take advantage of the matchup. The Chargers offensively have not been good overall, but the one strength they have is running the football. They're the 10th best rushing offense in the NFL right now, and you're going against the 29th rushing defense. So really strong match there. The Chargers running attack versus the Cardinals run defense. They're also not very good against the pass either, although neither have the Chargers throwing the football, On the flip side, the Cardinals offense has some strengths. Their running offense actually is pretty good, 7th best rushing offense in the NFL, but surprisingly against, when it comes to throwing the football, not very good, just 24th passing offense in the NFL right now. The Chargers are the number 1 scoring defense in the NFL. Now, to be fair, they haven't played a ton of great offense, right? Denver, Carolina, Las Vegas, besides the Chiefs, and the Chiefs also obviously banged up in that matchup. Chargers haven't played any great offenses. This is probably the best offense they played next to Kansas City's, but top 10 against the pass, top 10 against the run. They forced a good amount of turnovers. We saw Kyler Murray last week versus the Packers. A lot of fumbles last week. Give me the Chargers here. I love the Chargers in the spot, -1.5. All right, guys, we're now moving on to the parlay/teaser portion of today's video. We had a lot of success last week, 2-0 with our parlays, 3-0 with our teasers. Let's see if we can go ahead and have another big week here in this section. Now, first up, we have a 3-leg parlay. We're calling this the Barking Dogs Lay. Be careful with this one, guys. Don't put your mortgage, don't put your house, your rent, or put everything on this one. This is obviously a long shot parlay, but one that I still like. It's plus 1,013 odds. We got a 3-leg moneyline parlay. All 3 are money lines. All 3 are underdogs in this matchup. We've got Lions plus 100 versus the Vikings, which we already gave out in our regular picks. We have Dolphins plus 130. I took them plus 3.5 in the regular picks. I said maybe sprinkle some money line here, and also the Giants money line at plus 142. Again, it's plus 1,013 for a reason. It's a long shot parlay, but again, you want to throw a little something on this one. These are 3 underdogs that I really like in this matchup. The Lions, I think, are pretty much a lock to win here, but the Giants and Dolphins, some interesting matchups there. I could see both those teams coming out and surprising people with a win. Give me those 3 teams in the underdog lay, the Barking Dog Lay, All right, guys, our second parlay, we got a nice little 3-leg parlay, plus 236 odds. Again, a money line lay. We're going Packers money line, -148, Bengals money line, -230, and Jaguars money line, -250. 3 teams that I love to go ahead and win their matchups. I think they're teams that, I don't want to say they're all locks to win, but they're my favorite teams to go ahead and win these matchups. If they don't win these games, I'd be completely surprised. It's plus 236. Not a bad little parlay to go ahead and throw some money on there. That's our second parlay. And then our third and final parlay, we have another big time parlay called the Big Kahuna. This hit last week. It's our biggest parlay of the week. 6-leg parlay. It's all of the spreads, some alternate spreads, but some spreads that I really like in the spot. We got Jaguars -4.5 versus New England. The Lions plus 3.5 versus the Vikings. The Bengals -2.5 versus the Browns. The Packers -2.5 versus the Texans. The Seahawks plus 7, and the Commanders -3. You parlay all 6 together, plus 1334. That's the third and final parlay. Now let's get on to the teasers. All right, guys, our first teaser is, of course, our must-win teaser. It's our giveaway teaser every week. All you got to do is comment must-win down below, and if this teaser hits, one lucky commenter will be selected to win a free $20 Amazon gift card. This bet hit last week, so we did select a winner for last week. They've already been contacted to go ahead and win their free Amazon gift card. I believe we're now 2-1 on the must-win teaser. I think this is our 3rd or 4th. We've definitely hit it at least 2 times this year already, the must-win tease. I believe the record's 2-1. So here's our must-win tease for this week. 3-leg teaser, plus 130 odds. So again, we're going plus money here. It's 7-point teaser. We got Lions, who the original line is plus 1.5. We're now getting Detroit at plus 8.5 versus the Vikings. Bengals, we're now getting at plus 1.5 versus the Browns. And Commanders -2.5 versus the Panthers. Again, plus 130 odds, must-win tease. Comment must-win, and if this teaser hits, one lucky comment will be selected to win a free $20 Amazon gift card. Now, this second teaser, a little bit different than normal. It's not a plus money teaser, but this is, again, as close to a guarantee as you could possibly get in sports betting. It's a 4-leg teaser, 13-point tease, -140 odds here. Normally I like the plus money teases, but this is a really nice one if you're looking to just get a nice hit here. So we got 4 overs, right? All overs. We got the Patriots Jaguars over 29. We got Panthers Commanders over 38.5. Ravens Bucs over 36, and Seahawks Falcons over 38.5. All those minus 140 odds. Really solid teaser there as well. And then last but not least, our third teaser of this week slate. We have our mega tease. It's a 6-leg teaser. Again, we get this out last week. It did hit. We get 7-point tease. So we're getting Bengals plus 1.5 again. There are a couple ones that we're taking on again, which obviously is a risky thing when you're putting the same bet in multiple times. A little risky here, but there are a couple spots that I really just like. I don't see those losing. We have Bengals plus 1.5, Giants plus 10.5, Dolphins plus 10, Chiefs plus 9, Jaguars plus 1, and Lions plus 8.5. So those are that's my 6-leg mega tease plus 450 odds. And guys, that will conclude this week's video. 40 minutes long video, but a ton of picks to go ahead and share with you guys. Thank you very much, as always, for watching. One more time, guys, please make sure to go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit that like button, and drop a comment down below. We'll be back next week with some more NFL picks, but until next time, hope you're all winners. Enjoy week 7, guys. Let's have another great week.